One order.
I want to keep you on your toes.
What am I going to do? Okay, go. We can talk about armor.
Weapons first.
Or we could start with our weapons.
Should
we start with weapons?
Hey guys, I got a great idea. Let's start with weapons first.
All right, but only for you, dude.
Only for you.
Only for you. All right, so we'll start with weapons. So I'm going to say this a couple of times and then I'll stop saying it. On August 27th, which is not this week, but next Wednesday, we'll be releasing the 3 basic weapons for combat. There will be a lot more weapons coming later, but the basic weapons are from right to left, I guess. Conjurer's Staff, and then the Marksman's Bow in the middle, and the Soldier's Blade at the end. All of the weapons have 2 different abilities. I know you guys can just watch the video, but I'm going to run through some of this anyway. They have 2 different abilities. You can use left click and right click. The Conjurer's Staff does these really cool, like shotgun blast of energy with the left click, and snares opponents in an area with the right click, which is called it's called something. And then there's Marksman's Bow, which has 2 abilities. The left click one is Quick Shot, which does damage and you can fire it pretty rapidly. And then the right click one is Sniper's Mark, so that you can mark a target so that when you do use Quick Shot on them, it does extra damage, double the damage, and staggers them, which means knocks them back a little bit, but not a lot. And then the Soldier's Blade is cool because it acts just like what you'd expect out of a sword. You slash with it, it does damage, but it also breaks terrain.
Yeah.
So that was one of those abilities that breaks terrain, which is cool. And then the right click allows you to do a charge move where it's called dash. Something dash. Darn it. Anyway, what it does is when you right click it, it charges you forward a good distance into and through your opponents, as well as doing damage to them, knocking them down, and restoring some of your armor.
And if you want to see these in action, we did do a live demo of them during the keynote. We had a whole bunch of the team up front. They were actually playing with the different weapons. So if you watch that keynote video, you can see these live and in action.
And the effects are cool. So yeah please watch the video. It's awesome.
I need that bow.
Keynote.
All right, so next, what's this?
Armor. So since we have weapons, we also want to have armor, of course. But armor's way different in this game than it is in most games. In most games, armor is basically just damage prevention. It's a bunch of stats, and it keeps you from getting hurt. But in Landmark, like with all other items, all items give you abilities. Whether it's a grappling hook that gives you grappling hook ability, or lunar anklet, or whatever.
Sure.
There's all these different abilities that tie into items. Well, the same is true with weapons, and the same is also true with armor. So this armor that you're seeing here is set up to enhance long-range combat.
Okay.
So that basically when you're wearing it, you get all kinds of bonuses for using long-range abilities, as well as attacks that are hard to trigger at close range, like things that have a long casting time or channeling or something like that.
And so the next one we have the concept sketch of it on a female avatar, and then it actually modeled on the male avatar. What kind is this?
This one, the original concept name for it was Monk Armor, but which we got rid of. But the idea behind it was being very nimble and very getting to bounce around and move a lot.
Right.
And so now what it does is it's an armor that enhances the movement abilities when you're moving around the game. Later on, we're going to talk about the stats that are in the game that make you vulnerable to death. Well, one of those 3 stats is energy. And so when you use your movement, or your heroic movement abilities, or your combat abilities, you're pulling out of that energy pool. Well, this armor basically reduces the energy requirements for heroic movement.
Okay.
So if you like to bounce around along, if you like to be hard to hit and moving around and just making a general annoyance out of yourself, this is great armor for that. And then it also gives you abilities like when you use certain movements, combinations or something.
And then this one, and I think it's really important to note, this was a concept piece, and here it is modeled. One of the things we talked a lot about at SOE Live is the fact that Landmark is genre agnostic. And so we'll have armor for the different play styles in lots of different flavors. So this is obviously...
And one of the upcoming graphics will make that really obvious. Really obvious.
Yeah.
It has my absolute hands-down favorite armor. But let's talk about this one real quick.
Sure.
I like this too because I like sci-fi. I'm kind of a sci-fi geek. But this one is designed for up-close and personal combat. So it gives you buffs when you take a lot of damage, and it's just generally good for being right in the face of your opponents.
Right.
And so what we're doing with these armors is we're creating lots of different armors in the game. Initially 3, but we'll add more and more and more of them, and they have different abilities. So what you're doing with armor is you're not necessarily looking for ways to stop damage. That's all stopped by your armor stat, which we'll talk about in a minute. What you're really looking for is the abilities that go with the armor. Because when you can take your weapon abilities and then you combine it with your armor abilities, you're creating a gameplay style.
Right.
Like, do you like to be a long-range sniper, or you like to be somebody that bounces around and catches things on fire, or whatever it is you want to be able to do, you need the different abilities to do that. And then so you get the abilities from items, so collect the items you want, and you got to catch them all. But, oops, I think I just did an IP violation.
And
That's not going in Player Studio.
No. And here's a full set of a wide variety when we talk about different genres, styles. You can see there's lots of different things available in this one.
And there's something in there for everybody.
Yes.
Whether you're Genghis Khan or Clint Eastwood.
Speaking of,
Yes!
this is one
This
such
is
sample.
the armor I'm never taking off. I don't even care what the abilities are.
Just doesn't matter what it does. That's my new play style. So this is a concept piece of the Gunslinger year. Is that right?
Yeah, it's
Gunslinger. That's what we're calling it.
brilliant.
Yeah.
So it'll have abilities, and we haven't defined the abilities yet, to be honest. And so as we get closer and we start putting in more of this epic armor, because the basic armor that we showed earlier is stuff that you can craft. Then there's also going to be a whole bunch of armor that's you can only find
Right.
by either killing monsters and taking the loot, or exploring through the caves, which often have monsters in them, and being able to open up chests and being able to pull that stuff out. And then once you have the epic armor, and it has cool abilities, later on we'll also add in salvage. I know we've been promising that for a long time, but really this time we'll be adding in salvage, and then once you have salvage, you can break this stuff down and use a bunch of different sets of pieces to make even cooler armor.
Awesome. Now, when you break them down in pieces, is there a way to do, or will there in the future be a way to do, like if I want to look like a gunslinger but have some of the abilities of others, to do some sort of...
Yes, I know for sure an EQN will be divorcing appearance from actual abilities. I believe that's the case for Landmark, but we'll talk more about that later
Yeah,
when we get
okay.
closer.
Sounds good. So again, these will all be coming in the future. I just really love this. And the thing that I think I love the most about this is the fact that it's got a very modern twist on it, the fact that it is like denim pants and leather gloves, and that's not a look we have currently in Landmark.
It's
but
just
it
awesome.
but it really highlights the fact that you are going to see so much variety in the world. That
Yeah.
Landmark it really is anything you want it to look like. So
Eventually, SWAT gear and steampunk kind of,
Right.
propeller head stuff and all kinds of stuff.
So next we have coming up, we want to talk a little bit about what the armor actually does for you, because pretty soon we're going to be able to die.
Sure, well, we have to talk about the armor stat, because we did just talk about
Right.
the armor abilities.
So we have that.
Hey, look
There
at
you
that.
go.
It's almost like you knew I was going to talk about
Almost.
So this is set up intentionally so that the UI mimics what the actual game effect is. On the left side of the screen, you see the yellow bar that's on the outside of the health bar. And what that means is your armor is protecting your health. And when you run out of armor, you're going to start losing health. If you run out of health, you die. Here's an example of when armor's been beaten down a little bit. And then if you just step away from the combat, if you can get out, if you can stop being damaged for a while, your armor will start to regenerate. And there's other ways to trigger it, like when we were talking earlier about that sci-fi armor. Basically, when you wear it, it increases your regeneration speed on some of that
Okay.
stuff. So you can regenerate the armor up, and then your health is safe, or then you start to take health damage, and eventually you die.
So
There's health damage
Health
without
going
your
down.
armor,
And then
and then that's what it looks like when you die.